It is December 14th, 2020. In this video, I'm going over the latest information regarding the judge's order in Colombia to require PCR test and a 14-day quarantine for anyone who's flying into Colombia. Follow along.
This is Houston, all full of fun. This is why we call it Big City Houston. Big City Houston. Big City Houston. Everybody.
Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. This is my latest update regarding the judge's order in Colombia regarding the 14-day quarantine and the need to take a PCR test upon arrival in Colombia. So it's not all said and done. Ultimately, this update right here, at the end of it all, there is still, as of today, there is no requirement for a PCR test and no requirement for a 14-day quarantine. But because it is a judge's order that was put upon the government to implement at the airport for international travelers, it's a process and it didn't go away. So everybody who's been commenting on my videos, for the updates and wanting more information because you're going to fly soon, that's the reason for this video. I want to give you as much information as I have found recently. I'm going to go quick. I'm going to run through like 3 stories. Most are pretty short, but I'm going to run through them really quick. Hopefully I can get this done in 10 minutes and post it this evening, which again, it is December 14th, 2020. For those who are looking at my videos, remember, just like the news programs that come out that you can find on TV, if you look at ones that I posted a week ago or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, they are old. That's old news. So this is the latest news as of December 14th. A story just popped up this evening, and I wanted to pass it on to you because it's not resolved. But ultimately, if you just care about the end result, then, move on and then maybe come back later if you want. But let's jump right into the first story. The first story is entitled, and I'm going to go in chronological order too. So if you see some of the dates that are on these stories, and I'm looking at LT Info as a reference this time. This one's entitled, "Could the Ministry of Health be arrested for failure on PCR tests?" So here's the order of it as it happened. A lawyer in Colombia, in Bogota, filed, a petition. I forget the name of it right now. Filed a petition in Bogota, Colombia, to require a PCR test for all international travelers who are coming into into Colombia, as well as require a 14-day quarantine. So the judge mulled over it and he ruled. Okay, boom. He put it into effect. He wrote an order, sat down and wrote an order that now it is required a 14-day quarantine as well as a requirement for a PCR test, which they had just stopped on the 4th, if you remember, of November. So from there, the government says, okay, well, we need to talk about this and we need some clarification. So the judge says, okay, it took a few days. That ultimately, the judge gave clarification, and then the government says, we can't comply. Okay, so it didn't just go away, though. His order is still in effect. And so what he was saying in these stories I'm going to read to you is, okay, I wrote this order. Whether you don't like it or not, you still need to follow it. So I'm going to pick up from there. This one, again, is entitled, "Could the Ministry of Health be arrested for failure on PCR test?" Now, formerly the Minister of Health, Fernando Ruiz, is not entered in contempt of the guardianship that ordered the return of PCR tests for travelers entering the country. Let me specify for those who aren't legal eagles, and neither am I, but how it works is a judge writes an order, says you must comply to it, and for those that he demanded that order to enact that order, if they refuse, they can be held in contempt, where they can either get fined or thrown in jail. So that's where we are. So the lawyers consulted indicated that although the minister has already publicly stated that it is not possible to comply with the guardianship ruling, the truth is that the deadline to do so has not yet expired. They indicated that when the period expires, the judge who ruled on the guardianship will begin to resolve the incident of contempt presented by the lawyer who presented the appeal. As part of that analysis, it could even require Minister Ruiz to account for his actions to comply with the ruling. On this episode, which has been generating controversy for days, criminalists opine. The criminal lawyer Pedro Nel Escorcia pointed out that the minister has not yet breached any order today, but that if he maintains his position, he will do so in a matter of hours. If you do not comply with the guardianship, and it is a fact that falls into contempt and you could face the legal consequences, but that has not yet happened, says Escorcia. The representative of the Colombian Criminal Lawyers Association, Francisco Bernate, agreed that the judge's order must be fulfilled not only by the Minister of Health, but also by the Colombian Migración officials who are responsible for the verification process of people's documents entering the country. In turn, lawyer Marlon Fernando Diaz pointed out that failure to comply with a guardianship action can generate contempt punishable by arrest for up to 6 months and a fine of up to 20 months minimum wages. The request for clarification of a guardianship ruling or its challenge does not suspend compliance with the ruling, which must be given within the premonitory term set by the judge, which is normally hours, added Diaz. Even the judge could reach a certificate of copies for the prosecutor's office that crimes such as fraud and judicial resolution are investigated. In the event that the challenge is represented by the government, the guardianship will have to be reviewed by the superior of the judge who protected his rights of the lawyer. In this scenario, the minister is not safe either, since the challenge does not stop the effects of the guardianship or the orders issued by the judge. In short, my understanding is, and I have to say always my understanding is, because I'm not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer, but when they write this up, the judge is saying that you need to still comply. Until we get this resolved, you still need to comply and do what I said and you scramble the best you can, whatever, but get those tests done. So on to the next story. Let's jump right up. Experts recommend not ordering PCR tests from international travelers. And I'm going to scroll because obviously we get that. There's a certain part because everybody's talking about PCR tests, but you are probably more so worried about what? A 14-day quarantine. So I want to jump down to this part. Where is it? Another. I told myself to remember. Okay, another issue that the specialist discussed and that also has to do with the guardianship that revived the test is the mandatory 14-day quarantine for each of the passengers. In the opinion of infectologists and other specialists, it was found that Colombia is one of the countries with local circulation of the virus in such a way that the implementation of quarantine of people arriving from other countries who do not present symptoms does not provide any particular benefit in the prevention of the transmission of the virus. Quarantine is recommended exclusively when the individual has been in close contact with people known to be carriers of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in a symptomatic or asymptomatic way. Finally, they insist on the importance of maintaining measures that have been proven useful against the virus, such as hand washing, social distancing, and constant use of masks and avoiding agglomerations. It is worth remembering that the guardianship was challenged last week by the Ministry of Health, and the results of the procedure are awaited. So this is still pending. Meanwhile, the test is currently not required to enter Colombia. So for everybody who's commented and I've replied, as of today, it looks like you guys are safe for the foreseeable future. As you can see, things happen quick in Colombia, and this court case has not gone away. So it could be tomorrow. Who's to say? It could be tonight. They just change it and says, okay, now you have to follow the judge's order. You need to work that stuff out. To be honest with you, they should be working it out anyway in the background, just in case the judge's order is upheld, which I don't know why it wouldn't be. I never understood how the government can get away with it, not going along with it. But here's the story that just came out this afternoon, and I want to get it to you as soon as possible. So I'm talking real fast because I'm hoping to keep this really, really, really short so I can get this posted tonight. Again, from El Tiempo, judge refuses to annul ruling on PCR test on travelers. The judicial official denied a request made by Avianca, LATAM, and several tourism companies. So it looks like all these other people tried to jump on the bandwagon with the government to say, yeah, we don't need PCR tests, we don't need quarantine. So this is where we are as of today, and this is this afternoon, 4:35 p.m. So here we go. The 11th Administrative Court of Bogota Circuit which ordered the government to require travelers who arrive in the country to show a negative PCR test for coronavirus and maintain a 14-day isolation, denied requests that Avianca, LATAM, and several companies from tourism to have the ruling annulled. So it looks like these people filed something else to say, get rid of this ruling. But according to the judge, the arguments they presented to try to overturn the decision are not acceptable because, in his opinion, as it was a guardianship ruling, the court was not obliged, in order to make a decision, to have the appearance of third-party stakeholders such as airlines, tourism companies, and private citizens. Given the nature of this special type of constitutional protection, this petition would go against the legal system, particularly with regard to the procedure regarding the time established to carry out this constitutional action, the court assured. For this reason, the court, if all the companies and the persons interested in this ruling had been linked to this decision, it would have taken several months to resolve this judicial appeal, distorting the characteristics of the subsidiary immediate, expeditious, and effective, which has guardianship. Thus, for the court, both Avianca, LATAM, and other people and firms that asked to annul their ruling did not meet their requirements to make that request because they are not legitimized. In the case of Avianca, for example, the judge said that he does not have a legitimate interest in being part of the process, since in his brief, he focused on manifesting his economic losses, and the court was not in charge of specifically ruling on the rights that a citizen he presented him as violated by the government, but not requiring tests such as life, individual health, and public health. The petition had been filed in addition to Avianca and LATAM by several citizens and by the tourism companies, yada, 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 and yada, yada, yada. According to Avianca, in its intervention, it should be annulled, the ruling that requiring a negative coronavirus test, because despite having an interest in the guardianship decision, it had not been notified or summoned to be part of the process. The same was said by LATAM, who assured that he had not had the opportunity to contradict or pronounce or what was being discussed in the guardianship. Some of the citizens who had asked to annul the ruling also stated that this decision violated their rights to free movement and imposed additional burdens on them. In the middle of the case, in which the government had disagreed with the ruling and has refused to abide by it, stating that it is impossible to comply, last week there was a meeting called by the Attorney General's office, who attended by the judge who ordered the test, and the Minister of Health, Fernando Ruiz. After that meeting, the prosecutor's office assured that it would ask the judge to modulate its ruling, in other words, make modifications, so that it can be complied with by the government. So they're trying to get the judge to work around, to scramble, so the government can comply. So it's not over. It is not over. It is not over. Unfortunately, you would figure this would be easy, but when a government orders something, I always wondered when the judge orders something, I always wondered, how does the government get around by just saying, we're not going to reply? I mean, they are the government, but he's a judge. How does that work? So we're still in limbo, guys. That's the long story short. We're still in limbo. Let me know what you thought about my new intro music. That's my music for, I'm thinking of using that for my intro for Big City Houston, my newest channel to open up. It's all on Houston, everything about Houston. So do me a favor and jump over there, and if you can, it's called Big City Houston. There's absolutely nothing on it right now. I will be posting more information on that, more information on this, the update for getting to Colombia, and more information as I can conjure it up. Anyway, thanks for watching. As of today, no PCR test, no 14-day quarantine. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Subscribe, like again. The likes help the YouTube algorithm. It helps more people see this. More people are going to Medellin, Colombia, and you guys are rolling down there deep. So, this information hopefully is helpful. If it is helpful and you're getting benefit out of this, do me a favor, go down and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be alerted of all new videos, and thank you so much. Be safe.
This is Houston, all full of fun. This is why we call it Big City Houston. Big City Houston. Big city Houston. Everybody here having fun.
We have a YouTube channel, like it.
Please comment and share if you like the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.